Welcome back to Pen and Pencil. Let's get right down to the topic. A while back I was talking to a friend of mine saying how Death of a Salesman, the play by Arthur Miller, was one of my favorite plays ever written. Then I got to thinking about that statement just a little bit. The thing is that show is really sad. Am I a really sad person? Well, not today. The weather was nice. I found a quarter. But it's not just me. A lot of people consider that play just remarkable and also call it their favorite. But why is that? Now, this is not going to be a video talking about how great Death of a Salesman is as a play. Instead, today we're going to focus on one of its main aspects that people just adore the play for. I would say that it's actually the use of the literary character known as the tragic hero that makes this play so great. Let's go ahead and have a basic rundown of this idea. According to Aristotle, a tragic hero has to have 5 things. A flaw or error in their judgment, also known as hamartia. A reversal of fortune, or in other words, fall of status, which really the character doesn't have to be in a high status, just has to have some nobleness to them, you get what I mean? 3, that the said fall has to be put into motion by the character's own actions, excessive pride or hubris, and that the character's fate has to be greater than he or she deserves. Again, none of this is making it sound more cheery, so is the love of this and many other stories that hold a tragic hero just cathartic, as in we need a good cry and that's why we like to watch this type of stuff? Well, yes and no. That aspect can be part of the media experience of why we enjoy something. But let's look at Oedipus Rex, or Oedipus the King, a play written centuries ago by the Greek poet Sophocles. This play follows the king Oedipus as he falls from grace and becomes demised by his own actions. And yes, it is where the phrase Oedipus complex comes from. Once you read the play, you'll totally get it. And I do say read because a lot of theater companies don't put on the show anymore, but a lot still do. And by that I mean the really high up, very professional theater companies, because the play still has merit in modern day. But why is that? The play was written in ancient Greece, and yet everybody still talks about Oedipus Rex. Well, the thing is about Oedipus is it makes the whole tragic hero idea a little more understandable. Remember the second factor that Aristotle proposed, that the tragic hero has to have some high status that he falls from? While that has been played around with modern tragic heroes, it does put in perspective why the tragic hero is still so prevalent to this day and still resonates whenever it is used. It's not just cathartic, which it is in many cases, Death of a Salesman being one of them. I cry like every time. But it's also real. Think about it. How many times have we seen famous celebrities or politicians fall from a great stature really from their own hands? Not to rile up too many in the modern political world, and also not to rile up too many in the modern celebrity world, let's go ahead and go back a bit. Think of the president, Lyndon B. Johnson. Again, this shouldn't be getting too political, but this is the best way I understand it. LBJ did a lot of good things as president, but sadly what he's remembered for most is the Vietnam War. He was ultimately the person who sent the most soldiers over there after JFK's death, and so he is blamed for it. But LBJ did a lot of great things for race relations and other stuff for the country. And yet, by the generation that experienced his presidency, mostly, he's seen as one of our worst presidents. And yet there has been some light shown on the LBJ administration. A lot of people do see him as a great president now, including people from the generation that experienced his presidency. Now, why is that? Well, it was reported that the whole Vietnam thing was a mixture of people. It wasn't just LBJ, it was partially his advisors. But yes, LBJ had the final say on such. It was a different time. The Vietnam War looked like something we could win, and so there was a lot of factors to go into it. But what does this have to do with the tragic hero? Well, before the large number of American troops being sent over to Vietnam, LBJ was considered a great guy. I say this because he was elected eventually. His first term was taking over the place for JFK after he was assassinated. But then when he actually ran, he was elected. So he got to serve another term. So that was his high status. And his fall ultimately was by his own hands. So maybe with at least Americans, tragic hero hits a little too close to home. Again, there's other examples, but I don't want to ruffle too many feathers. I've probably ruffled enough already with this video. Heck, you probably didn't think you were getting a history lesson today, now did you? So I guess the reason why we want to experience a play, film, TV show, book, whatever, that has its main character as a tragic hero is because we find it way too relatable in what we see going on around us. But it's interesting, you know? Art is usually seen as an escape. Again, escapism and its importance will be another video sometime in the future. I just won't go into it now. Well, that's the broad, very broad, considered point of art, is to escape from real life. And yet you always hear critics, fans, or whatever say something in art, film, play, whatever, as unbelievable. I couldn't get into this scene because it's not believable. But isn't fiction supposed to be an escape? Why should it make sense? I don't know, fellow writers. It's an interesting thing to think about. But maybe that's why we like tragic heroes so much, is because we see them happen all too often, and maybe it's the whole idea of something making sense, as in a full circle or resolution happening to said character from their actions, when a lot of times in real life we don't get to see that happen. It's an interesting analysis of the psyche, which I do not have the expertise to go into too much. But this is just sort of my meditation on tragic hero, and I might revisit this topic because I do love talking about it. What do you guys think? Why is the tragic hero so prevalent still to this day? Why do we enjoy experiencing media that has a tragic hero as its main character? Leave what you think below. I would love to talk to you guys about all of this. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to stay tuned to Classy Octopus. Be sure to subscribe. I will see you on Friday. Bye-bye.